what you're looking at here is a potential list of the 2020 presidential candidates supporting or praising the Green New Deal of Alexandria Ocasio Cortez and Bernie Sanders. Now, if you haven't counted, there are 13 potential 2020 presidential Democratic candidates. 13 of them. More than I've ever seen in my entire life in one party. Running for president. It's just unbelievable. But we'll get to that in a minute. The list is as follows. Swalwell, Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, Cory Commie Booker, Bernie Commie Sanders, Inslee, Merkley, Castro, O'Rourke, Gabbard, Delaney, Kamala Harris, she's a communist from California, Gillibrand, Bloomberg. Really? These are the people that support doing away with airplanes, fossil fuel in 10 years. Because they say, or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says, the world's going to end in 10 to 12 years. So let's do away with airplanes, railroads, cars, cargo trucks, air cargo, air passengers, airplanes. Yes, let's throw a whole millions of people out of work. On February 13th, Republican Mitch McConnell decided to put it to a vote. Let's see how many of these 13 presidential hopefuls actually back it. How many of them actually read it, understood it, and comprehended it?
Let me say, first of all, however, I've noted with great interest the Green New Deal. And we're going to be voting on that in the Senate. We'll give everybody an opportunity to go on record and see how they feel about the Green New Deal.
The Democratic Communist Socialists are now outraged and furious that it's been brought to a vote. They weren't counting on that. The Communist Socialist Democrats planned on sneaking this Green New Deal under the disguise of something else later on. Much like they tried to do with Obamacare, for those of you that remember Nancy Pelosi saying first you have to vote on it to see what's in it. Liz Cheney of Wyoming tried asking some members about the Green New Deal, how they planned on implementing it and bringing it forward, and how much it was going to cost and what it was going to cost the economy and taxpayers. And this is the response that she got. Let's watch this video of how the Communist Socialist Democrats tried to sidestep any questions.
And so my constituents are obviously very concerned about this notion that we're somehow going to transition over the course of 10 years here to, an economy that is entirely run on green energy. And certainly they have concerns about the fossil fuel aspect of that. But I have to say one of the issues that people are particularly concerned about is the extent to which we're no longer going to have air travel, apparently, according to some of the frequently asked question answers we've seen. So I guess I'd like to start by asking each witness to tell me exactly how they arrived in Washington, D.C. for this hearing. And it's just a one-word answer. And I'll start with you, Ms. Farley.
A big white pickup truck.
I drove.
Plane.
Air and Metro.
Well, thank you very much. And so I'd like to ask, I would assume that each of the witnesses who believes that we should in fact move towards net zero emissions would say that we ought to do so gradually, not suddenly. And so I would ask, and I'll start with you, Ms. Farley, if you could describe for me perhaps exactly how we'll do that gradually. I would assume we're not just going to wait 10 years and then all of a sudden tell people they can't fly, but that we'll be in a situation where over the course of the 10 years, we would somehow gradually work our way out of air travel. And I would also have to guess that that would involve some sort of prioritization. So I assume even my colleagues on the other side of the aisle who support the Green New Deal, and perhaps the witnesses who support the Green New Deal, wouldn't advocate, for example, that we cancel things like, life flights. They wouldn't advocate that we immediately move away from being able to transport people who have, life-threatening illnesses by plane, but that there would be some other prioritization there. So, Ms. Farley, could you tell me exactly how the government should prioritize air travel and the gradual move away from all air travel?
I would depend on the FAA and other federal agencies that focus on air travel to tackle that question. The Green New Deal is a sweeping collection of recommendations and policies.
Thank you very much, Ms. Farley. So the FAA then, I would assume, I guess we're going to set up a situation where the FAA then can tell individual citizens which of their air travel is worthy and important and which isn't. And it would seem to me, I guess we would then have a situation where the FAA could say, for example, you know what, vacation travel, that's not essential. We got to make sure that we can do the air travel for the people that really need it, so no vacation travel. Would you say we're going to have some sort of a vacation commissar set up in the government to determine what kind of air travel makes sense and what kind doesn't? Ms. Schrader, maybe I'll go to you on that question.
With all due respect, I came here to talk about my community and how we have transitioned.
So you don't support the Green New Deal then?
Decimated by the.
So Ms. Schrader, thank you. You don't support the Green New Deal?
I'm not an expert on the Green New Deal.
Okay.
The gentlelady yield for a correction on how she's badly
No, I
mischaracterizing
won't
the
yield,
resolution
Mr.
on the
Huffman.
Green New
Mr.
Deal.
Huffman, you
This
had
is
plenty
fiction.
of time.
This
Mr.
entire
Huffman,
line of
I'd like to
questions
have
is
my
fiction.
time restored, please, Mr. Chairman. So let me ask you then, are there any other witnesses on the panel who do support the Green New Deal? Nobody supports the Green New Deal on this panel. Interesting.
I support many of the policies and recommendations in the Green New Deal.
I see.
Specifically, the support to make sure that any climate solution strategy is centered in equity.
Thank you very much, Ms. Farley. I appreciate that. Reclaiming my time, I would just say that I think it's going to be crucially important for us to recognize and understand when we outlaw plane travel, we outlaw gasoline, we outlaw cars, I think actually probably the entire U.S. military because of the Green New Deal, that we are able to explain to our constituents and to people all across this country what that really means. And even when it comes down to something like air travel, which the frequently asked questions say they want to eliminate within the next 10 years, that means that the government is going to be telling people where they can fly to and where they can't. And I would assume, I guess that means our colleagues from California are going to be riding their bicycles back home to their constituents.
In all seriousness, Liz, I doubt any of the Democrats in Washington, D.C. from California are smart enough to know how to ride a bike. Matter of fact, that goes for about all Democratic, Communist, Socialist, Liberals. As reported here in January of 2019, electric scooters being dumped in California Lake as popularity explodes. And Liz wants them to ride a bike. They won't even ride an electric scooter. So that Green New Energy deal, they can't even do that. Makes you wonder. This Green New Energy deal is not about green new energy. It's about social and racial justice.
Because today is the day that we truly embark on a comprehensive agenda of economic, social, and racial justice in the United States of America. That's what this agenda is all about.
You heard it, about social and racial justice. That's what this agenda is really about. And they're trying to hide their agenda by masking it behind a Green New Deal of supposed energy. Racial and social justice has nothing to do with green new energy. It's about we're having too much white privilege, so we're going to take away the airplanes, the cars, the motorcycles, the boats, the jet skis. Airplanes not just for people travel, but cargo travel as well. These are the communist socialist terrorists that we were warned about. They come in on a Trojan horse, singing a line of bullshit, getting you to believe it. They are the terrorists that have invaded your country. Wake up. And I guarantee you, this communist, socialist, degenerate, Bernie Sanders is coaxing Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. Coaxing her big time. He couldn't get anybody to vote for him and win the election. I mean, he did, but not enough. His agenda of communism and socialism is also masked behind all kinds of phony green deals. Bullshit. While he jet sets around on his jet airplane to all these states giving speeches, burning up fuel. He wants everybody else to make sacrifices while he jet sets around on his jet airplane, which has been reported and is in one of my other videos. Typical degenerate, communist, socialist, terrorist, Bernie Sanders.
Because today is the day that we truly embark on a comprehensive agenda of economic, social, and racial justice in the United States of America. That's what this agenda is all about. Because today is the day that we truly embark on a comprehensive agenda of economic, social, and racial justice in the United States of America. That's what this agenda is all about.
Because you know, the white race has had too much white privilege as they rode around on all these airplanes over the years and decades from place to place, as they worked hard and saved their money to be able to afford to fly on airplanes, and the achievements that aviation brought. It's too much white privilege for these social justice warriors, these communist, socialist, democratic, liberal social justice warriors. Don't be disillusioned by these socialist, communist, Democrats' sound bites and buzzwords that they'd like for you to buy into. They're illusions and fantasies of what they think they are going to give the United States when this is what it's going to end up being. It's going to be something that you've never experienced. But they're not going to come out and admit this. Do not be fooled by these socialist, communist, terrorist Democrats. Because their Green New Deal is not about the Green New Deal. It's about social and racial justice. We've had too much white privilege in this country, and their goal is to take away all this white privilege. Jet airplane travel, cars, boats, your homes, hike up your taxes, your utility bills until you can't afford to live in this country as an American citizen. And that is why they're ushering and importing in all these illegal migrants by the thousands to take your homes, cars, jobs. Then they can force socialism and communism down your throat and create a race war. It's not about asylum seekers and people trying to get here to have a better way of life. It's about these socialist, communist, democratic, liberal terrorists. And I'm going to emphasize the word terrorists because that's exactly what they're doing by advocating for all these open borders. You think about that for a minute. This is a good way to take over a country. Create a civil war and civil unrest and chaos. They're hoping you're too blind, ignorant, stupid, and very naive to see their true agenda. Their true agenda.
Because today is the day that we truly embark on a comprehensive agenda of economic, social, and racial justice in the United States of America. That's what this agenda is all about. Because today is the day that we truly embark on a comprehensive agenda of economic, social, and racial justice in the United States of America. That's what this agenda is all about. Because today is the day that we truly embark on a comprehensive agenda of economic, social, and racial justice in the United States of America. That's what this agenda is all about. Because today is the day that we truly embark on a comprehensive agenda of economic, social, and racial justice in the United States of America. That's what this agenda is all about.
Announced just this week, California, socialist communists out there have already had to pull the plug on their bullet train from Los Angeles to San Francisco, citing ballooning cost. $1 billion bullet train to go 150 miles or whatever it is from LA to San Francisco. Remember earlier in the video when I brought this up, electric scooters being dumped in California Lake as popularity explodes? Well, apparently the commies out in California, the millennials, don't like the scooters that the taxpayers have paid for. Let's take a look and see what they're doing with them.
We've been having a fair amount of the e-scooters come into the lake, been thrown into the lake, rather.
James Robinson, executive director of the Lake Merritt Institute, is in charge of the lake's upkeep.
These can be very damaging to our marine environment because they're not natural things that go into the lake.
That damage, he's concerned, is coming from the batteries in the scooters operated by both Lime and Bird. Here's a closer look at what Robinson is talking about. These appear to be Bird scooters in the lake. This is a picture of what looks like a Lime scooter submerged underwater. And this is video we shot of a scooter that appeared to have recently been submerged in the lake. In October alone, Robinson says 60 e-scooters were pulled from Lake Merritt. Numbers from November are still being calculated.
The scooters was not something that I thought I would be taking out of the lake.
The apparent work of vandals just because they can. Robinson thinks possibly kids are behind it. He says the issue has been reported to both Lime and Bird, but so far only Lime has sent employees to help remove them. Work is also being done by volunteers. This is a picture of a recent haul of electric scooters pulled from Lake Merritt. The nets they're holding are used to pull the scooters out.
If they're really far into the lake, this is very problematic because we have to launch a boat.
Oakland City Council member Rebecca Kaplan led a push to pass an ordinance to develop permits for scooter companies. The Oakland Transportation Department is in the process of developing new rules. One idea, banning scooters from being set up along the Lake Merritt running path, one change that Robinson hopes to see very soon.
But wait a minute. I thought this was about green energy and saving the environment and all this yada, yada, yada. And here they are in the lake, polluting the lake with their batteries and all the other stuff on these electric scooters out in California. Thought they were supposed to be all about green energy and saving the planet. Here they're dumping these electric scooters in the California lake by the hundreds, and they're having to go fish them out so they don't pollute the lake and hurt the environment. Where's Mark Dice when I need him? So while the socialist and communist democratic terrorists are banning air travel and cars and trucks and tractors and snowmobiles and boats, I'm sure after Boeing and Cessna and Beechcraft find out about air travel being banned and nobody can no longer fly, they're going to be real pleased with the Democratic Socialist Communist Party. I'm sure the employees at Boeing are going to be real thrilled to vote for your party when they find out they're going to be out of a job because they're going to ban air travel. The thousands and thousands of aircraft machinists, maintenance personnel, fabricators, corporate personnel are going to be real thrilled at voting for the Democratic Socialist Communist Party when they find out they're going to be out of a job, along with all the vendors that cater to Boeing and all the other aircraft manufacturers.
On what is the radical socialist takeover of the Democratic Party. Now, the president is promoting freedom, low taxes, national security, and strength. Uninformed socialist extremists, they are now steering the ship at the DNC in a pretty big way, in a kind of scary way. Now look at freshman Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who says the world's going to end in 12 years, is now leading the way. She is the chief spokesman leader for the Democratic Party. And as some background, look at the new leader of the left. Take a look.
Medicare for all would save the American people a very large amount of money. Why aren't we incorporating the cost of all the funeral expenses of those who die because they can't afford access to health care? But when it comes to tax cuts for billionaires and when it comes to unlimited war, we seem to be able to invent that money very easily. We look at these figures and we say, oh, unemployment is low, everything is fine, right? Well, unemployment is low because everyone has 2 jobs. We need to occupy every airport. We need to occupy every border. We need to occupy every ICE office.
If we work our butts off to make sure that we take back all 3 chambers of Congress, all 3 chambers of government, the presidency, the Senate, and the House.
You used the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
I think what I meant is like the settlements.
Just last year, we gave the military a $700 billion budget increase, which they didn't even ask for. And we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it?
No, I think it is a green dream. And I think that it is. You know, I don't consider that to be a dismissive term. I think it's a great term.
I guess it's no surprise that Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal has now become a nationwide laughingstock, except for the fact Democrats are really serious about this insane piece of legislation. Take it seriously. 2020 presidential hopefuls are literally tripping over each other to support the Green New Deal. Make no mistakes. Democrats want to radically reshape this country into a little socialist eco-utopia that will promise everything and deliver nothing but catastrophe and poverty. And if you're wondering what a socialist utopia looks like, well, this new Green Deal, no more oil, no more natural gas, no more nuclear, no more airplanes, no more gas-powered cars, no more gas-powered ovens, no more cows because of flatulence, government promise, paid leave, medical leave, paid vacation. Now they wrecked high school and K through 12, so now they're going to wreck college. Education free for all, healthy food for all, government-forced renovation of every building in America in the name of energy efficiency, government paid for high-speed rail connecting every city in America. We won't have airplanes, so I guess we'll have high-speed trains to Australia and Asia and Europe. And they're going to guarantee income to every single person, even those unwilling to work. Wow. And a retirement plan. But believe it or not, there's even more madness. Now, we'd be here all night if I listed it all. So look at the side of your screen. And here's the kicker. The Green New Deal is calling for this to happen in 10 years, and the world is going to be over in 12 years, according to Ocasio-Cortez, if we don't act. On Twitter today, she said passing the Green New Deal is a life or death issue. Well, in a way, she's right, because if this ever happens in this country, the American dream that has created more wealth, more prosperity than any other country on the face of this earth, it's over. Government will take over every single industry, the healthcare industry, no private healthcare, the energy industry. They will give you that cradle to grave, womb to tomb promise. They'll tell you what car you can drive, where you can travel, what you can eat, and even how you cook it. And more notably, in order to try and pay for that insanity, mother government, well, they'll own your paycheck. From each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. Right, Congresswoman? And I know you watch the show. And let's not forget about those who would be impacted first. Airlines, 700,000 employees, goodbye. Over 10 million people owe their jobs to oil and the gas industry. See ya. Millions more serve in roles related to those 2 major industries. Promoting this stupid deal, Democrats, they're actively calling for tens of millions of Americans to lose high-paying jobs, and it's only going to get bigger. We have 2 pipelines on the line, and we opened Anwar. We're the #1 world producer, surpassing Saudi Arabia and Russia for the first time in 70 years. And all the high-paying career jobs that will be available for people. Look at this Fox News poll. 25% of Americans have a favorable view of socialism. It promises everything and never delivers historically a thing.
It is, and I think that that all great American programs, everything from the Great Society to the New Deal, started with a vision for our future. And I don't think that, I don't consider that to be a dismissive term. I think it's a great term.
All right, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez announcing her Green New Deal. I think we're up to about 100 Democrats that support her. Breaking tonight, the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell invoked Rule 14 on the Green New Deal to bring it right to the Senate floor. Brilliant move. Good job, Mitch McConnell. Joining us now, Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce, America First, Action Senior Advisor Sean Spicer. Let's get them all on record. Nancy needs to bring it up in the House, bring it up in the Senate. I want to know who supports banning airplanes and redoing every building in America and free everything and nationalizing industry.
You know, what's interesting is that the Democrats thought that they were just going to roll with this as they had been, as this idea. I did a column a few weeks ago saying there was really no substance to it yet. It really didn't even really exist. And then, of course, we had the scandal of them removing the reality of what it was they were proposing, including money for people unwilling to work. But what they had thought this was going to be was a fun way to signal to millennials and to progressives about what they stood for without having to do anything about it, without anything really needing to exist. A resolution is not a bill. And so they thought this was just going to be a lot of media and press. Having to vote is a reminder now that people will either have to vote with the individuals who want to pay people who are unwilling to work, or they're going to have to vote against them, which will signal to the base that this has been an unserious framework from the start.
Well, I don't think it is unserious. And Sean, I'll actually make the case. I'm going to stand up for Ocasio-Cortez. I think she's probably the most honest, extreme, radical, democratic socialist in the country, in that she's saying what they have been, well, what they wanted to do incrementally for years, and they've used the courts for, what they could never get done at the ballot box or legislatively, and they use activist justices to do this dirty work for them. But this is what they want. This is their dream bill.
You're right, and it's a dream bill in the sense that it's not based in reality. That's generally speaking what dreams are. But dreams are generally also positive things. Nightmares are negative things. And I think that this is a dream in the sense that it's not based in reality, but it's a nightmare in terms of what it would do to our country and our economy. Sean, just a few years ago, this would be sort of one of the fringe things of the Democratic Party. Unfortunately, it is now the mainstream. You look at every one of the 2020 announced or prospective candidates for president on the Democratic side, and they're all embracing this. But what are they embracing? Not a policy difference, not more spending. That would be typical for a Democrat. But they're basing something that they can't even tell you where it ends up. This is insanity. The idea that we want to end all sorts of commercial travel, the idea that we want to certify every building in a way that they can't tell you how they're going to get there,
we're going to rebuild
would kill so many jobs, is insane. And I think that people, and I'm glad that the leader is going to put it up for a vote, because we need to expose the agenda that's really coming. And most of the time they mask it in really good words and all sorts of things. This time, I think everybody needs to understand exactly what's happening and call a spade a spade. This is socialism. There's no other way around it.
He's really offering everybody gets the Fred Flintstone car, where you have to pedal with your feet, and maybe there'll be
no airplanes, no meat. You know, we're going to nationalize all industry and no health care. We're all into this one health care plan. A lot of good Obamacare worked out. All right, thank you.
Remember, according to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we have to get rid of airplanes within the next 10 to 12 years. Probably starting towards the middle or end of this year. Because we've only got 10 or 12 years left on this planet, according to her, so we got to hurry up and get rid of these airplanes. Along with all the airline jobs, pilots, stewardesses, machinists, airport personnel, ground personnel, air traffic controllers, thousands of air traffic controllers, thousands of ground personnel, thousands of pilots and stewardesses, machinists, aircraft mechanics. Yep, y'all are going to be out of work. I guess you're just going to get jobs in this green new energy that she's talking about. I don't know how you're going to get to the green new energy jobs with no transportation, because you're not going to have any cars, not going to be any planes. You're going to have to relocate after you lose your homes and your apartments because you're not working to pay the bills, and your utilities are shut off, your electricity, your water, your gas. This pie in the sky fantasy that she's on and the rest of these Democrats isn't really a fantasy. It's called a terrorist act against the United States. That's what it is. Think about it. Ushering in all these illegals from South America. Obama, when he was president, ushering in and importing all those Middle Eastern foreigners, terrorists, by the thousands into the United States. All these hundreds and hundreds of illegals from Mexico and El Salvador and Guatemala and Haiti coming over here, unchecked, unvetted. We are at war, people. I don't mean that in just terminology or a sense. The Democratic, Communist, Socialists, the terrorists, the liberals, have waged war against the United States of America, and some of you are too damn naive, ignorant, and stupid to see it. They are a Trojan horse to this country. They are trying to sneak in and mask their true agenda through phony means like this green agenda, this Green New Deal. And even some of the news media is following it. We are at war with these Democrats, these communist, socialist terrorists, because that's what they are. They're worse than Osama bin Laden. Think about that. You think long and hard about that, what they're advocating and what they're trying to do. Laying off all these people, rebuilding every building and structure in the United States so it's green. It took 13 years to build the new World Trade Center. Imagine how long it'll take to rebuild the Chicago Sears Tower in Chicago. Every building in Los Angeles, Seattle, Salt Lake, Houston, Dallas, Denver, Kansas City, Omaha, Des Moines, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Detroit, Cincinnati, Toledo, Boston, Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, Atlanta. Every building and every home has to be rebuilt. People, you're being hoodwinked by these communist, socialist terrorists. And that's what they are. They aren't going to come out and admit it. They are a Trojan horse. They're gypsy snake oil salesmen lying to you, selling you a fancy bottle with a fancy label, trying to convince you there's medicine in it. Then after you buy into the agenda, you find out there's nothing in that bottle but horse piss. There's no medicine at all. And that's exactly what these Democratic, communist, socialist, liberal terrorists are doing. And some of you are falling for it, especially some of you younger millennials, some of you college kids out there. You're falling for the bullshit. It's disgusting and it's pathetic, and I'm ashamed of what I'm seeing on YouTube when some of these people go out and interview you college kids, that you're this clueless, this ignorant, this naive, that you would fall for this shit. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, and so should your parents. But your parents probably aren't much brighter than you are, because they sent you to this college and university and are paying for it. It's pathetic, absolutely pathetic, what's happening and what we're seeing in this country. And frankly, anybody that supports this Green Deal is a terrorist. Is a terrorist and ought to be locked up and tried for treason. Because that's what it is. You heard her earlier in the video that the real agenda isn't the Green New Deal. It's social and racial justice. Those are war words. I was checking out some YouTube videos this afternoon on this Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. Some of the news briefings she's had and some of the conferences that she's had. Reading the comments below the video, and I was shocked at the comments below the video of how many young people are actually for her green agenda. Either they're naive and don't know because they've been hoodwinked and lied to, or they're incredibly naive and stupid. But I'm shocked. And if you're not taking her green agenda seriously, you better, because you see how many Democrats have signed on to it that support it and believe in it. If you're an airline worker, railroad worker, if you work on the Mississippi River on a tugboat, if you're a mechanic anywhere on anything, if you're in heavy equipment and your equipment runs on diesel, think about it. We're going to do away with fuel. Everything's going to be electric. Just that quick, because it rolls off the end of Alexandria Ocasio Cortez's lips and Bernie Sanders. These people are dangerous. And they know it. They have another agenda, is to turn the United States inside out, create total chaos. They don't want the United States as number one. They don't believe in this country. They want to send this country by way of third, even fourth world order. Turn us from a third world country, once we get there, into a fourth or fifth world country. People, you better wake up. This is a war. And the news media, from Fox News to the rest of the media outlets, better realize this is a war. And there's some media outlets like communist socialist CNN, they're terrorists, and MSNBC, Mika and Joe, you're terrorists, communist socialist terrorists. NPR, ABC News, The View, you all are supporting terrorists, and you seem so proud of it. You're pathetic. Absolutely pathetic, disgusting, and you all ought to be brought up on treason. Especially CNN. Its anchors and reporters, as well as the CEO of CNN. That pathetic douchebag bastard. What's even more scary is that some of you out there, especially the young millennials, want to go from this, that took us quite a few years to get this technology to be this good with jet airplanes compared to propeller planes, to go from this to what Alexandria Ocasio Cortez's Green New Deal plans on, which you're not going to like, and you can't afford it because you're not going to be working because you've been laid off from your job. Whether it's airline, railroad, cars, it doesn't matter. And we're all just going to go to work building buildings, I guess, and houses. Just think of all the vendors that cater to the airline and railroad industry and car industry that aren't exactly General Motors workers. They work for vendors that make parts for those companies. They're going to lose their jobs. All the construction industry, heavy equipment jobs. And you're wanting to go from this to this? Are you serious? You college kids out there that think Ocasio Cortez's Green New Deal is so great? This is what it's going to end up being, if that. Can you imagine riding through the Rocky Mountains on a winter day or winter night, and this is what you're going to end up riding through there on top of a train in 15 below zero weather in a snowstorm? riding through the desert of the Southwest on a summer day, 110 degrees. This is what she's proposing, but she isn't going to, her and Bernie Sanders aren't going to come out and admit this or tell you this. This is how communist socialists work. They present one thing, and it's really another. They're not going to come out and tell you their true agenda, just like the terrorists that struck 9/11 in New York City. Took out the World Trade Centers. They didn't tell us in advance. And that's the way these socialist, communist terrorists are working against the United States, by importing and ushering in all these illegals, hundreds of thousands, just like Obama did with the Middle Eastern terrorists, ushering and importing them in here at the taxpayers' expense. And now look what we got in our Congress. Up in Minnesota. People, the Democratic, Communist, Socialist, Liberals have waged war on America. And you're too blind, dumb, and ignorant to see it. Wanting to take away your guns, tax your ammo to the point you can't afford it. Y'all better wake up. And I'm damn serious.
It's about choice. If you like what you have and you want to keep it, you have the choice to do that.
Are you accountable for saying something that turned out not to be correct?
Well, it's not that it's not correct. They're here nor there. How do we go forward?
But the bottom line is people are getting policies that are canceled, and that was not the representation that was made. But then you said this in March of 2010. Watch.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it. I stand by what I said there. Yeah, when people see what is in the bill, they will like it, and they will. I don't think you can tell what will happen next year.